It's talk of the town that the war in West Asia was a black swan as far as the energy is concerned. And now we have the people who are already working on a grid to balance the renewables with run of the mill fuels and other, so the grid should not be shaky and it should optimize for consumption and other patterns. It is very important because now they are using AI, artificial intelligence, and once it is designed, it's the algorithm that keeps on managing the things. The beauty of the process is, and once you design and optimize, then you can replicate for other things that reduces the cost, that takes you away from the carbon footprint and all that, to inculcate more and more renewables into the grid, which is already working there. And I think that is the way forward, and that is the a tacit way to switching towards the new era. People very smartly and very conveniently say that the era of the fossil fuel is ended, but those who are working at the helm of affairs are really very smart people, and they are designing a pathway for this transition. We have today with us Dr. Aazir Khan, who is expert in the era. He's expert in the automobile industries. That was his second love. And we have today with us Dr. Aazir Khan. Very warm welcome to a program.
Thank you for having
Please
me.
say something on that, and then we rumble on further on this issue, which is a very important.
What we've seen is that when it comes to energy and everything, all countries are very susceptible to even small changes. This is not a small change. This has been
That's
quite
that. Yeah,
that. So this
that
has
is
been quite.
centennial change.
That is true. That is true. This is a huge change in everything. And while a lot of countries have been trying to figure out what they should do, especially when it comes to their energy requirements and everything, suddenly we've got this country like China, who is quite comfortable in buffering this whole system. And what we've seen with what they've been doing is that they've been planning this thing for quite a long time to make sure that their power requirements and their transport requirements use less and less fossil fuels and go more and more towards electrification, which is using renewable energies, using air, wind, solar, and also techniques that reduce the requirements for fossil fuels.
Do you think that is the reason that China was watching all this, what was happening from a distance, very calmly?
I believe so, yes, because um, this is not something that China's been doing for just recently. It's a system that they've been created since the 2000s. The biggest change we saw was when the Beijing Olympics happened, and you had the air quality and pollution, which was one of the highest in Beijing, suddenly reduced to zero overnight, and that was because
Overnight.
it's to us it seemed like overnight, because suddenly you had air quality like values of 600, 700, 800, and now it went down to 30, 40, where they had the whole Olympics without a single incident. They were prepared, and they were preparing for this for 20 years. They were electrifying their transportation, which is one of the biggest costs that we have, and the requirements for import. Pakistan, our fuel imports is 70% goes into the vehicle industry. Then the second one is power, where we have a lot of our power. Yes, we have hydropower, which was very successful, but we've had to use these IPPs, which are based on coal and also on fuel and gas, which we've seen was one of the effects of this crisis, and that suddenly has shaken up our system. So they were prepared. They were very sure of what can be done, and a lot of countries also knew about it. I mean, Pakistan was looking into this and everything. Someone would say, well, Pakistan didn't have $50 billion to throw at the EV industry like China did, but there are things that we can do, and I think now is the time to be discussing all of these.
So, what you're principally saying is that now is the time for creative destruction.
I think it is. That's a good terminology. We always call all these new technologies. They have to be disruptive. They can't be the same thing again and again. It has to be new, has to be different.
But if the do you think that I understand that technologies are disruptive,
Hmm.
but this time it's not technology; it's the basic fuel.
That's the thing. Even if you're getting fuel in, everything, let's put it this way, everything can be optimized. You started off with AI. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's not just a new thing that is come out from somewhere new. It's optimizing how we've been using different things before. So even when it comes to fuel, even when it comes to how the grid is working and everything, you can optimize all of that thing to be a buffer between any sudden changes that come into it. So for example, this crisis that started, and we have now 5 or 6 hours worth of load shedding. If we had buffered all of this thing, we wouldn't have gone to that thing. And China has not had this problem. So even if it's new technology, if it's new, even if the processes are still old, you can still optimize them. You can still make them come up to 2026. Let's say, put it that way.
Do you agree that the study says that if you hire 15 men for 15 days and put them to work and index their productivity, and the same work, if you employ 1 gallon of gasoline or petrol or kerosene, the same productivity you can achieve. So hiring 15 men needs about $15,000, and getting 1 liter or 1 gallon of gasoline is 55 cent on a good day, where the market is not on the high side.
Right.
So this petroleum was almost a free resource which we had been using. Do you think that the vested interest, or I will not say vested interest, the status quo can afford to throw it away in the name of creative destruction?
Um, yes, I would. Let's go for an example. Let's go back to 2008 to 2013 when the CNG
Was
this
introduced.
explosion came in Pakistan. That came on the grassroots level. You had petrol, which was like we say was cheap at that time, but suddenly you bring in something else which was cheaper, and people immediately went to that thing, and it's quite interesting. A lot of people don't know how many cars were converted to CNG. Some say 20%, some say 30%. It's well between 60 to 80% of all vehicles were
Yeah.
changed to CNG. So that
I've
was
seen SUVs.
everything was there. And nowadays you have people, when they're selling their old cars, said never converted. So that's a bad thing. But when it comes to the 15 humans and the petrol that is coming in, that's apples and oranges, and I'll explain why. Out of those 15 people, not all 15 have to work on something manual labor that would require them to do the work of that 1 liter of petrol. Out of those 3 or 4 people, there might be those guys who will be thinking of a new idea of how to replace that as well. It's when we talk about people and the petrol, the weightage, we put up one person as a worker who's doing a 9 to 5. But let's say a bit of a socialist way of thinking is that if you give those people more time to think and be able to understand, rather than working in, let's say, an industry where they're pushing a button, they might be coming up with more betters. There could be Albert Einsteins in Pakistan who were actually just filling a petrol station. So it's very difficult to quantify them both in the same way, I would say.
So the bottom line is that the time for creative destruction has come.
It is here, and the best part is that Pakistan, the creative disruption is things that Pakistan has been traditionally good in.
Has been good in.
Yes, one of our main exports, let's put it that way, is our intelligence, is our students. Universities over here nowadays, they don't talk about what our students are going to do when they graduate. They're talking about what kind of jobs they can get abroad. which is a strange way of thinking, but our governments have also thought of it that way, that they're a resource that will bring back remittance or things like that. But the major thing in that is has been the IT industry, computer sciences, and also electronics. Now it doesn't seem that way, but we have very very good electronics development and designing. We have not had the resources to develop engines, for example, but we do have the resources and the know-how to do motors instead. So there is a very it's
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
transition from very very tough and difficult IC engines to motors is much easier for countries like Pakistan, because those are things which won't have a very high requirement to get into that industry, but we do have the people to do it rather than sending them out.
Yeah. No, so very good luck to your work. I think that is what you're doing is at the cutting edge, and I understand a lot of students are going to be benefited. And somebody explained to me that a piece of carbon, when it's extracted from the earth,
Mm.
has little value. But when it's cut and polished, once the light goes inside, there's a prism. It goes to other side, there's a prism. Once the ray of light gets in, that's trap, and that's why it sparkles.
That is
So
absolutely true.
uh,
If
that is the preparing human resource.
it is, if you don't mind, I'll give you an example. Um, I'm the old guard. I'm the Gen X. I did my engineering back in the '90s and all, and we've, you and I, we've gone through seeing all those stages changing and all. But the younger generation, I'm my partner in developing our AI technologies is a 28-year-old
Boy,
boy.
I would say.
I call him a kid. And it's funny enough that my friends say, "Have you adopted him?" I said, "I have definitely adopted him." But
Intellectual adoption.
it's an intellectual, I love that. I'm going to use that. It's an intellectual adoption because he said, "I can work in a job or I can do my own things." I said, if I give you the resources and the freedom to do it. He comes up with these ideas of using AI to optimize grid systems and renewable energies, things we thought was traditional electrical engineering things and everything. So that change is amazing, and it's something that we all should look into.
And on a good day, on a bad day, or on a bad night, he can disrupt grid system in an enemy country as well.
That is true. Whenever we hear about, um, it's disrupting another country's grid system is called a human rights violation. Why is it? Because power, energy, and being able to
It's
live your life
fundamental.
is a human right of everyone. If we have to be very very protective of it, we have to make sure that that works in a method that is secure, and that can be optimized and make it cheaper and cheaper. That one liter of petrol, I still say these 15 people can still do more change than that 1 liter of petrol that can do.
In nutshell, what the system we have just talked about is has a new abbreviations. Their electronic new generation is very fond of it, and I've written it that I should not commit a mistake in calling out that long name. That is multi-agentic system for energy management and optimization. Quickly, doctor, can you explain it?
So, what multi-agents means is that you can use one agent for a separate system. So, in our grid system, we have energy that is coming from the grid, and then people who are using that energy. So, there's one agent which is only seeing how much energy comes in, and then one agent which is finding out what they're using. But then we have other agents that are coming up with ideas of how to make microgrids of these systems. So, for example, if we have one area, let's take an area of a town or a city and all. There's some places who have more renewable energies and solar panels that they have, this so that their net is positive, that they can give out energies. But there's some other areas which are socially not able to buy that thing, and they're the net users. So the grid, using this AI algorithm, this new technology, can determine where should you send it from one microgrid to another without disrupting the grid itself. So this is called, you're making the balancing the grid itself. One of the biggest thing that we have, a problem that we do have, is that the government or some people say that if we have too much renewable energy, what will happen to the grid? Nobody will use the grid anymore, and the capacity payments are going to increase. No, what we can do is we can use this renewable energy to balance this grid. And now we can add more and more agents to it. So we can add the agent to say what is the social balance of it. Who can buy electric motorcycles? Who can buy electric cars? So based on that, where can we put in charging stations, which becomes another agent of this thing? And then where is the most traffic flows? So the more agents you add on, for example, you can add on where do you have more pollution? So more polluted areas, that's where you can try to maintain more electric vehicles to come in that thing. So all of these different agents in this thing come together to make this Massimo that you mentioned to become a management and or optimization system for the grid.
Doctor, thank you very much. And one word for the government of Pakistan, which is very perturbed, putting on some fiscal restriction on this sprawling energy resolution. There is a person, contact him. He has a marketing plan for you, for all those capacity payment, for all those generation, which is very expensive, which is out of the vogue. They can give you some solution. With this, we come to the end of the program. Bye for now.